Hello everyone and welcome to the best of the best, duking it out here in a 5 versus 5 right here on Rosetta, the map of choice today, between some of these pro level heroes that are going to be showing us what they've got in this very high octane map, showing us exactly how the best of the best play bar. I got a lot of comments on the last video saying, this is a little bit below what I would expect out of the Brightworks casts. I think you should cast something a little bit better. So, lo and behold, here we've got some top tier strategy. So, today, spawning as the red team leader. And I think we'll have time to, in fact, meet all of our red team here. But spawning as the leader is the Cortex commander. Need to take a breath. A commander that goes by the name of Zeph. Zeph clocking in at 42 open skill. My goodness, setting a record on the board. Well, not technically setting a record, but definitely setting a high bar on the board right here. Definitely with a lot to show for it. A lot of Beyond All Reason behind their belt and going to be playing some top-notch bar here on the southern side of Rosetta. Spawning the exact other side of the map in the exact same position here. It's a commander we all know and love. A commander we should all recognize. A commander I've definitely seen around here and there. A commander who comes to mind whenever I think of top-tier play. It's, of course, going to be Claret from the Hello Clan. Well, hello to you, too, as we see this Cortex commander with their Viking helm marching a couple of those Cortex bots out on the battlefield. A double solar triple mechs bot labs start here. Boy, what a mouthful. Going to be going ahead and adjusting the slider down. So this is cool. Whenever you're playing on a team that's coordinated enough, setting the sliders down can be such a help. It's one of those little things that can, when a team is working together well, it can make the team way more efficient in total. But it can oftentimes be a detriment to the individual. So you have to be really careful about that, because with a lack of coordination, one commander can eat up all the energy of the team or all the metal of the team on a project that's definitely not worth it. And sometimes that's, well, that can be the death of a team, but in the same exact vein, it can also be to the team's great benefit. Double Conbot moving out right now for the blue commander, is going to be going in for the metal extractors, the geothermal, and the second batch of metal extractors over here. These are all 3.0, so they're well worth putting down some defenses, and indeed, looks like we're going to go ahead and go for a light laser tower. Now, C3BO, Zeeberg, Ajuma, and God Hates Cowards going to be rounding out the blue team here, and it looks like Flash Praetor, Mr. Dirac, and Ro all going to be playing on the red. Man, Ro as the lowest OS commander on a team definitely sets a high bar. Ro, another one of those commanders I look to when I'm looking for really top-notch gameplay. Pretty hilarious to see that Ro is now going to be playing as the 35 open skill bottom of the barrel for the red team. What a hilarious matchup. Grunts and Resbots headed across the field here. Nice pick by the yellow commander. Manages to snipe the Grunt. Grunt manages to eat up all the rocks, so at the very least paying for itself, but the Resbot here will be more than happy to go ahead and reclaim a whole bunch of those rocks from us across the map. Looks like it's going to get caught, though. Purple Grunt's moving into position. Ooh, but they ignore the Grunt, or they ignore the Resbot, pardon me. Okay. A little bit of a micro oopsie right now as this Resbot manages to make it all the way across the map to eat up this metal. Now, the Resbot costs 130 metal. These rocks are 190, so, I mean, yeah, I guess technically if we eat up all these rocks, it will have been worth it. Feels like a very risky proposition, though. I feel like 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose that Resbot. It basically came down to the purple player not paying attention for that split second, being the only reason why that Resbot didn't go down. Another Resbot in the backline here, going to be useful for resurrecting a whole bunch of these corpses, and of course using it for reclaiming any metal on the front line. That's going to be useful as well. Resbot continuing to steal metal back here. What a weird little play. Okay, Flash sending Resbots around for some reason. I have no idea why we're putting Resbots in the enemy backline, but I suppose it'll be useful. Maybe we could go ahead and go for these rocks over on this side as well. I mean, it's just going to be lingering around over here on this side, so bit of a strange play, but you'll love to see it. This is the kind of thing that we see from the pros every so often. They're just these weird plays that we don't usually see after that. Yeah, Mr. Dirac pinging his commander friend, saying, why is there a Resbot in the enemy backline? Maybe we're hoping to, like, resurrect a bot or something, or we're gonna, I don't know, maybe we're gonna reclaim metal extractors? Is that the play, is to reclaim metal extractors at 50 metal apiece? Yeah, I mean, it's very annoying. It just feels like it's so easy to clean up that it really would never be worth it. Grunt sacrificed on the front line right here, and the blue team off to an explosive start. The red team sending aggression across the map, but the blue front lines have already been well established right here. Orange commander pushing forward with a nice force of Grunts. That's Praetor going up against Claret. But, of course, the purple commander is contributing in their own way here, sending Grunts around to catch the reinforcements, and going to take a decent fight at first, but turns into a little bit of a sour one as those Grunts shift and change in formation. Meanwhile, the orange forces do engage against the blue, and the blue take a fabulous fight. My goodness, a single blue Grunt going down for 1, 2, 3, 4 orange. Just about as efficient a fight as you can go, and it's why I say that in this game, there's very few things that benefit too heavily from over micro. There's not a lot of units individually that you can micro a little bit harder to get way more value out of, but there's several units that you can micro on a larger scale, microing compositions of units to gain massive value, and one of those is definitely grunts. Building up the grunts into a big ball and then spreading them, or versus spreading them out, can yield drastically different results. It can be an entirely different fight depending on how you actually size up those grunts versus the other grunts. And Sizer's now engaging here. Pardon me. Yeah, and Sizer's taking a decent angle of an engagement here as well, but there's just too many of, whoops, pardon me, there's just too many of these grunts available on the front line right here for the Hot Pink Commander. Means, of course, that this front line will be held, and Mr. Direct will comfortably step forward to enjoy the benefits of that lovely engagement. Zeeberg once again trying to poke and prod in here, and it is the right move. With the vehicles, the superior HP pool that the vehicles have, you essentially want to dive in and skirmish a little bit and then pull them back so that you have a never-ending supply of damage going outwards towards the enemy. Grunts protecting the aggravators here, and these aggravators are going to be crucial for stopping Praetor dead in his tracks so that that commander can't continue to push forward with any further light laser towers. Look at that. Little hat upon that commander's head. Beautiful. The Goblin Commander in Halloween orange. You gotta love to see it. That is thematic if ever there was a theme. Beautiful stuff right there for our orange Commander Praetor. This front line is looking very dangerous. God hates cowards pushing forward with these aggravators, just firing away constantly. Hot Pink base in a whole lot of trouble right now. Where is the production? Oh, there it is. It's on the front line. A little bit of a weird situation. The Hot Pink Commander without production to defend this Metal Extractor, the Yellow Commander charged with defending that. Sort of having to hold a very wide front means suddenly this is a really tricky situation for Flash to be put in. Fighting the Purple Commander over here on the northern side and then fighting the Seafoam Green on the southern. Mr. Direct needs to pull up northward here. Ooh, that's a beautiful snipe on the southern side. The Green Commander C-3PO goes down. Loads of grunts die right there from Zeph, but that is all the units for the Green Commander, including a bunch of very expensive vehicles right down the drain. That is a huge play for the Red Commander. Trading out very cheap units for very expensive ones means, of course, that there is going to be plenty of metal to reclaim from that front line and plenty of opportunities to push forward, right? With the calm down, it means no more D-guns are going to be available on that front. It means Zeph could easily transition to vehicles. But also we're going to go for thugs here. Choking on my ambitions, as are the Green Commander here. Take a sip of my drinky here, try and clear the throat muscles. Wow, Metal Extractor is still up and standing. I thought by now we'd certainly have it down, but not quite yet. Fiends rolling out of the T2 laboratory here for Flash. These are going to be more than enough to clean up these T1 forces. They're fast enough to catch them, and they're, well, deadly enough to burn them to cinders. It is a matter of shutting down these units before they get too much value, though. And Sizer moving into the backline, and God Hates Cowards is stepping forward here to try and lay claim to as much of this metal as possible. Resbot in the composition here is reclaiming thousands of metal. We do have a orange and blue commander trade here as well. Definitely a better trade for the blue commander, though, who lost far fewer units in that explosion. Means that these Resbots, or these Conbots, rather, are going to have a lovely time at building up some defenses and eventually reclaiming all of the resources here from this front line. It'll be an easy T2 oh, well, we've already got the T2 transition. I keep forgetting. This is a 5v5, so a lot of these commanders have access to actually quite a few extra resources. This commander is very open and exposed right now to a bunch of fiends. This is more than enough fiends to kill this commander in nearly an instant. 2 fiends is enough to kill a commander. This many should burn it down in basically 3 volleys. Yep, just like that, the commander goes down. God Hates Cowards, Lavender Commander does fall. Seafoam Green, pardon me. Goes up in smoke right there, leaving a nice, plentiful corpse on the front line for the reclaim. That's another commander down, my goodness, popping like flies. The purple commander falls as suddenly more and more of those fiends are pumped out of the backline. Twitchers have been shared and T2 labs have been set up, so everybody has T2 units now. Yeah, you can see the Tan Commander row in the backline, pumping out fiends and sending them to his frontline heroes, making sure that there's enough fiend technology to go around right here, and certainly there is. These cons doing an excellent job of reclaiming a lot of this metal, which is always good to see. T2 Lab is up and running, and handing that over to the commanders who need one is always a viable option here. Twitchers included are going to be wonderful build power for any of these, and yeah, you can see Claret T2ing his entire team. Anybody who doesn't have T2 is getting a T2 right now. It's far past time that we need to see T2 plop down on this Metal Extractor right here. As you can imagine, 40 metal per second coming back to your economy, quite a wonderful sort of stimulation. Fiends burning across the T1 battlefield here, and there's not really a whole lot to hold as Aggravator's not going to fare well against those very fast assault bots. LLT's really the only thing that are going to do any meaningful amount of damage, and that really isn't to say that they're going to do much at all, just any more than anything else on the battlefield. Medium tanks, their time is running thin. Those Fiends burn through medium tanks pretty quickly as well. Glad to see that we're target firing here, though, choosing our targets wisely so that the snowballing effect is removed from the hot pink forces. Catching those units one by one is always lovely to see. A dangerous battle here because as soon as these Fiends get engaged in the action, it's going to be really difficult to stop them with anything shy of T2 defenses. Twin Guard is set up right here, going to be a nice little addition to the defense, trying to, again, shut down all this T1. It is a brutal situation, though, because as soon as these T1 defenses fall, there's nothing left holding the line right now. Medium landmines always an option as well. If you do go ahead and build those medium landmines, you have to be very careful not to stand on top of them. Could be the efficient option that we're looking for here in order to save the day against this many Fiends, though. Oh my goodness. Twin Guard's trying very desperately to shuttle these down. Not succeeding well. Eventually the geothermal going to be enough to clear out all of those Fiends, and a couple of Twitchers survive. But my goodness, that was a dangerous situation right there. Had those Fiends been spread out a little bit more, I don't think that would have been the same situation. A few of them maybe breaking through and managing to pierce the defenses and do a little bit more eco damage. For the time being, though, 4.4 thousand metal lying on the front line is going to be more than enough to go ahead and, well, pose a threat, to say the very least. We need to see that mopped up by one commander or another, and whoever does. Going to be in a huge benefit here. Right now, the blue team commanding a discerning advantage right now, although it is fading as the reclaim piles in, as the army and defense values begin to climb. It is the red team that is still in the lead as far as army value goes. Pushing out a whole bunch of those units to save their front lines now means that they have the attacker's advantage. They're going to have tech that's going up against T1. Here's a Tsar tank pushed out from the backline, though. Just one Tsar is all it really takes to shut down basically an entire T1 composition, well, T2 as well. Oftentimes, these Tsar tanks hold their own against T2 and absolutely obliterate T1. One of the best units, if not the best unit, that the Cortex faction has in their vehicle bay. Obviously quite expensive, it's $16.50 a pop, but very, very rewarding for the fact that they can just obliterate T1 forces, and even some of the thinner T2 forces, like Fiends, of course. Again, it's LLTs and Grunts on the defense here, which is never going to be an efficient fight against the Fiends, but to say the very least, they have quite a few of them. When that's the case, it means that you can get more efficiency than you'd imagine out of certain units, just by virtue of being able to get a better surround and amplify that surround bonus. Fiend's looking for the opportunity here. They're going to settle for a couple of metal extractors and some static defenses. I think that's a worthwhile ambition. Targeting down these static defenses opens up a large portion of the map here that the blue team is going to have to hold once more. Bombers coming across. Oh, just barely managing to kill that geothermal, and now going to try and snipe the next one. Oh, what a hit squad right here. These bombers taking out the geothermals. Just enough bombers in order to shut those down. Geothermals fall right here, and that is a huge boon to the blue team. Shutting down 600 energy worth of production from the red team is a huge effort. Means suddenly the entire red team lacking ever so slightly less energy, or lacking ever so slightly as much energy production here. You can see the benefit that they once had now closing in gap here. T1 laboratory is shut down as well, or at the very least the build power is, so that laboratory is effectively as good as dead. When the build power goes down, it means that there's really not a lot more that you can do with that laboratory. It's going to be producing units very slowly, so it's going to be a desperate crawl to try and do anything about it. Tan Commander has fighters in the air and manages to shoot down the rest of these bombers. Anti-air bots have been built here as a last-ditch effort as well, and eventually the whirlwinds plummet out of the sky. We're in that common situation here where one fighter defends air, and suddenly they have air superiority immediately. It's exactly the situation we see right now where the Green Commander was producing fighters to try and recuperate the losses, but for the time being, the red and, well, specifically the tan player have more than enough fighters to actually contest the air right now and go for a counterattack. And we do have loads of bombers available, so going for a counterattack to try and snipe some valuable assets, geothermals mainly, definitely not a bad idea. Popping up that 40 metal per second metal extractor wouldn't be a bad idea either. Anything you can in order to try and pull that advantage back. The blue team pulling into the lead at this point. Nicely done. Defense value quite a bit higher at this point at 9.3k metal invested into defenses. We'll see how well it holds up as the Fiends streak across the battlefield, now finding a T1 static defense. Gonna be shut down quite nicely by those T1 walls. Okay, well, we found the hard counter to the Fiend. It's a T1 wall, the Dragon's Teeth, apparently. Bombers coming in hot. Fighter forces are few and far between for the blue forces. Means that these bombers are coming in with a hearty vengeance. Ooh, bombs away. Oh, just barely not popping that AGO. Yeah, we don't want to waste all the bombers. We want to try and drop the payload and then get out of there. Oh, I don't think we did it, though. Oh, just maybe. Yeah, we need to send 2 bombers back in order to do that. Such a tricky battle, but not going to manage to pull off the micro trick right there. The tank commander loses the bombers, but at the very least pops the advanced geothermal. Probably could have been a lot worse if maybe just 2 of those bombers had gone in to finish the job. Obviously risky, because if those 2 get shot down, then you're left not killing the AGO, and you're, of course, being chased by other fighters. So there's some risks to that, but maybe risking it for the biscuit there would have been the wise play. Obviously, a lot easier to judge from perspective of the third-person viewer here, rather than the player in the game trying to make that judgment call. T2 Con already moving over in that direction, though, in order to try and rebuild that advanced geothermal, and I think that's a lovely decision. Maybe going for a Cerberus cannon, not the end of the world, or going for Armada and putting a Prude down, not a bad idea either. Anything to make sure that in the future, in case there's no air support, you at the very least aren't going to lose as much when that geothermal gets bombed. Same sort of situation, though, now. We're one apiece as far as bombing runs go. We've taken out basically the same amount of energy production. Actually, a little bit more for the blue team, technically speaking. 1,250, I believe. Hold on, I can check with this. Oh, there he is. The hero. The hero. He will eat you alive. I guess this is what we hit this guy back here for. 74% and falling. Yeah, the Resbot who could. 1,500 metal worth of T2 geothermal is going to be eaten up right here by the little hero that could. The little Resbot that was spared. What a hilarious move right there from the yellow commander. I hope that we look back here in just a minute and we find that there's no geothermal on this spot. I'm going to keep my eyes on this as the match continues here. Man, the pros are so creative with their strategies. In 100 years, I wouldn't have figured out to hide a Resbot in the enemy backline to eat up their T2 later on in the game, knowing their APM is going to be taxed and they're going to have a hard time. Oh, he noticed. C3BO noticed. In the chat, he noticed that there's a Resbot reclaiming the Geo. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's gonna send a grunt over to fix it. That is so funny. I mean, literal minutes you would have to wait here for this to reclaim this thing. It was so unlikely that it was gonna go this entire time. Maybe if you had, like, hidden it around the corner, right? You hide it just right behind the Geo so you're not gonna spot it from the default view. Maybe it's possible. Resbot is stopped, though. What a shame. What a crying shame right here. At 33%, almost managed to reclaim the entire Geo. What a hilarious way to pull your economy out of the gutters just by eating up the enemy's economy. What a ridiculous strategy. I love it. 1 commander right now for the blue team. 2 commanders for the red. Means the blue is in a little bit of a precarious position here. We do have T3 rolling out to the battlefield, but the bombers are headed inbound. Now, flak trucks have been produced and flak trucks have engaged. The bombers are going to start falling rapidly here as there's no fighter escort. It only takes so many of them to pop those AGOs, though. Do we have enough bombers? Bombs away, 33%, and boom goes the AGO. A beautiful bombing run right there, concentrated right through, and popping that 1,250 metal, pardon me, 1,250 energy investment. Ooh, nice landmine strike right there. Pops a whole bunch of these. We have medium mines out on the battlefield now, going to be ravaging the forces of the red commander. Everywhere they turn, the grunts are being destroyed. Obviously sacrificing the grunts to pop a landmine. Not the end of the world here. Landmines costing 16 metal and grunts costing 36 apiece. So, technically an inefficiency, but way less inefficient, or otherwise way more efficient than, for instance, losing your 410 metal mobile mortar bot, Sheldon. Beautiful spybot connection right here in the midsection of the map means the Cyan commander is exposed. Medium tanks jumping on top of Tigers, never a good situation, a helpful situation. Unless, of course, you're the hot pink commander who's got to be cackling in their new cyan painted chair. Their cyan leather chair here as these all these Tiger tanks, these very, very expensive T2 heavy tanks do go down. Sheldon blasting away the static defense here is lovely as well, because of course it means that it's not going to be able to get as much value as it hoped. Red Commander crying for help now as the T3 units have pushed forward. These Shiva are going to be very dangerous for the T1 to push into. We do have loads of Shuriken. Massive Shuriken pull right here. We have hundreds of Shuriken pulled to the southern side right now, and trying to paralyze everything. There they go, jumping on top of all these units, stunning them completely. What a beautiful play right here. Nice control from the air. Rowe doing an excellent job of paralyzing all this heavy T3, turning the tide that once was the EMP of the Cyan Commander now into the EMP of the Green Commander. Without any air support, it does mean, yeah, this is as good as dead. Sheldon getting on top of all this and blasting it down. Medium tanks and salamanders, all the rest of it. I guess salamanders are medium tanks, technically speaking. I think of them as a heavy tank because they can sustain, I believe it's 2 shots from a sharpshooter, or 1 shot and then they die on the second. It's amazing how tanky those actually are. Anti-air set up all over the place. We do have SAM turrets coming up here, which are lovely anti-air. They're relatively cheap for the late game. 350 metal is basically nothing. They do a decent amount of damage. I would say all around they're probably one of the better T1 anti-air options available. Sort of a lower level chainsaw, which is the Armada T1 super heavy anti-air defense, I guess you could call it. It's a bomb resistant anti-air defense tower. It's decent against single targets, but it's not necessarily the most useful because it tends to overkill basically anything it shoots at. Specifically really good against dragons. That's one notable use case for them. Seismic detector has been built, means these spy bots are as good as dead here. Their footsteps were detected, and it means, of course, the purple commander is more than happy to beset upon them. Several dozen grunts now pumped out of the purple laboratories. Are we going to continue pumping out grunts? It sure looks like it. Yeah, we've got the T2 economy. We're just going ahead and pumping out as many grunts as possible. Wouldn't mind seeing more and more labs set up, but look at this economy we've got going on. The blue commander continuing to scale the economy, continuing to produce these E-converters, continuing to produce aphises, continuing to build up further and further, and just using these yeah, good old-fashioned Twitcher to build persecutor cannons and other static defense out on the map to make it really, really awkward for anybody to sit around here in the open. I really don't even mind it. I mean, it's one way to spend that massive economy without necessarily pumping out units that you have to micro. Just go ahead and set up a whole bunch of pork. Yeah, and you can go ahead and even set up a bunch of statics for your own base as well, obviously making it very expensive to push into. And with the Aphis coming up and online, ooh, nice scout right there from the scout point. Does spy that the Aphises are being pumped out right now. Means, of course, that you have every opportunity to push forward the red team, that is, knowing that your opponent is just going ahead and investing in their economy rather than investing in units to contest the front line with. Persecutors here finding value, though. 8 kills already to this one's name and 13 for this one. They're, yeah, fighting against a lot of T1 stuff, which is ideal for their particular set of skills. They have a decent amount of AoE, they do a decent amount of damage. Means they can definitely find their most value against the T1. Do we have pinpointers is the question. That's the other way that we can improve this composition ever so slightly. Building a couple of those pinpointers so that the radar is actually accurate to targeting these. Loads of anti-air coming out now. The flak turret's going to be starting to put in some good work here. Yeah, flak turret's built in mass. Going to start firing away at those bombers, trying to take down as many of them as they can. Oh, is there enough, though? The fighters are in mass here as well. I don't think the T1 fighters are going to cut it. The heavy bombers make it to the base. The Aphis is the target. Bombs away. Whoa. Oh, just barely with a solid defense. The blue commander taking out enough of those bombers to spare the base from complete obliteration. Mere bombs away, mere several bombs away from being devastated in the backline right here. This Aphis definitely would have taken down all of this build power over here, the entire base around it. It would have been really annoying to rebuild. Luckily for the blue commander, managing to stay in the game right here with a nice defense, a huge set of static defenses here to ensure that it's going to be very expensive to push forward into that base once more. Twitchers here in a little bit of trouble as suddenly these Twitchers are caught in the hellfire here from some of these Tiger tanks. There they go, microed away from the situation. Setting up more and more anti-air towers all over the place. Look at this T1 airfield, oh my goodness. We've just got an entire swarm of T1 anti-air. It's not bad even. It's not really the end of the world. The only problem, of course, is that when you do something like this, they will tend to overkill very, very often. So 10 of them will fire at the same unit and it'll die to 2. And then suddenly you're in a really awkward situation. The March of the Mammoth. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean that perspective. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Let's get some cinema shots, shall we? I love the Mammoth Bull. pushing forward like an unstoppable beacon of green lasered hope. Demour incarnate. These Mammoth are going to be so brutal to fight against. No matter what you do against the Mammoth, you're going to have a hard time fighting into them. You okay, cry out, God hates cowards, and I think it's about time that we start asking for some sort of solution from teammates. AGO in a precarious way now as the Mammoth do march within range. It's only a matter of time before their lasers lock onto that very precious AGO, and boom goes that base. Pop goes the AGO. You know what? Not as big a chain reaction as I expected here. Some of the build power still remains intact. Catapult's still trying to blast away as many of these Mammoth as possible, but my goodness, all of the Shiva have gone down here. An extremely ineffective defense the Shiva have proven to be. Can't help but wonder if Shuriken were the right answer at this point. Mammoth, obviously incredibly slow, means they're a viable target for Shuriken. They do have quite a bit of resist to Shuriken just by virtue of their massive HP bar. But so long as the Shuriken do manage to jump on top of them, it's not the end of the world. Demon marching forward right now. Little surprise demon here and there, always very, very useful. And you can see also firing away into the air to shoot down fighters every once in a while. A nice little touch on top of that. Cortex engineers seem thrilled to strap anti-air rockets on top of basically any unit that they possibly can. Frankly surprising that Mammoth doesn't have anti-air considering how bulky its chassis is. I suppose all that armor plating doesn't leave much room for adjustments though. Look at this Mammoth spam, oh my goodness. It's just a billion Mammoths pumped out every single second. Without sharpshooters to really deal with this, this is a very Cortex heavy team. In fact, it may be all Cortex for this team. Yeah, indeed it is, all Cortex. I was wondering why we didn't see any of that T3 Armada. It's because it's entirely Cortex all the way around. We don't have any Armada playing in this game. I don't know why it took me this long to realize it. Definitely a Cortex party for sure. Demon eventually crumbled over here somewhere. I don't see exactly where the corpse ended up being. It was likely reclaimed. But at the very least, it is going to be time for T3 on the prowl here. You can see the Orange Commander getting ready to push forward with a whole bunch of these catapults, just firing them away whenever they can. We do have the rover spam in front as well to detect landmines in the oldest fashion known to Cortex kind, simply detonating them. Spybots here are quite nice as well for the Blue Commander, providing a lot of vision, but obviously they're also prone to being fired at accidentally when they wander a little too close to buildings. A fairly fragile unit, so you do have to be quite careful about where they land. And you can see with just a couple of those missiles accidentally targeting those down and ruining their odds. Scorpion turrets protecting the catapults here is quite nice as well, and as they march forward, continuing to devastate these static defenses. I love a good catapult volley. Oh, Spybot connecting with half of them. An excellent connection right there. Does lose the vision, though. It does mean that this Cerberus cannon is not going to be firing at full force. Spybot detected there. Will not be detonated. Means these fiends are pushing forward. Shuriken out in a beautiful pattern. What a lovely square pattern right here for these Shuriken now available to jump on top of a lot of this, but not having the opportunity to do so. Yeah, they want that golden opportunity, but they just haven't found it quite yet. Resbot's patching up as much of this as possible, and Shiva holding the line. Catapults firing off into the distance as well. We're just waiting for these reinforcing Mammoth to hit the front line. It's gonna be a minute. It's gonna be a long minute before those Mammoth ever make it anywhere close to a front line here. The orange catapult's nicely protected by a whole cadre of anti-air trucks at this point, making sure that if the Shuriken jump on top of this, it's gonna be very cost ineffective, is what I meant to say. My goodness, look at the economy. This is one of the things that the pros are so good at. It's just continuing to constantly scale the economy. Making sure that there's always build power and always aphises. Making sure that the energy production is constantly going upwards. And here we go. Catapults continuing to fire away. This Cerberus cannon, the single hope here for the blue team. Apparently the only thing holding together this front line. Demons maybe going to be tasked with dealing with all this. No, they don't want to leave the comfort of those anti-air trucks at all. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange situation because you need something sturdy enough to push the Cerberus cannon, but also high enough damage to kill it. And there's not a lot of things that meet that demand, that criteria. I would say Karganeth make a good argument. It's definitely not Shiva, and it's definitely not Demons. you're just going to take too much damage. I mean, demons could definitely do it. They can close the distance fast enough that it doesn't really matter. But it does feel like an inefficient fight. That's a nuclear explosion, by the way, on the green base on the southern side. Saw it on the minimap, but I wanted to make sure that the catapult got their time in the sun. Saw the base explode, and it was too slow to cut over here, but it does mean the green commander is now down to their last forces. No production remaining means anything that they receive is going to be all that they get here. Sort of a bleeding wound, but the blood is drying and bleeding out. It's only a matter of time before C-3PO begins to lose this front. With every single ounce of friendly fire damage that these Shiva do, it's amplified even more by the fact that they will never be replaced. Karganeth coming up right here for the blue commander, and I think I like to see it. We need some of those ultra-heavy warbots on the front at this point. With 700 metal production, you could probably afford to produce quite a few of these things. Yeah, it looks like we're about there. We're dumping 800 metal per second into these Karganeths, so we've certainly hit the point where Karganeth are now coming out of the laboratory at breakneck speed. It might not seem like it, but this is breakneck speed for a Karganeth. What is that? Every minute or so, a Karganeth is pumped out? That is wild. Not quite to Karganeths per second, but we are certainly getting there. Ooh, nice Spybot connect. Well, okay. Spybot connecting with a Shiva. Maybe not the most efficient Spybot connection, but not the worst thing ever either. A couple of Tremors continuing to fire away. So annoying, these Tremors shelling you from out of range. Just continually bombarding your position with a massive volley of fire. I'd love to see these move forward, though. They are kind of just dump firing into our own units at this point. Southern side definitely under duress, though. The massive Mammoth spam has worked out. And now it's time for T3 on the front line. Yeah, okay, we're going to set up a whole T3 laboratory. We've got Behemoth on the queue right now. Only 200 metal production. Okay, only 300 metal production for the red commander. You can see an eco that's not nearly as impressive as you might expect for the team leader. But making the very most of it. Yeah, using every ounce of metal on units that provide a lot of HP and a lot of sustain. Basically the perfect unit for countering the Shiva over here. Shiva really struggling to deal with these Mammoth en masse. How funny is that? Mass Mammoth, apparently the anti-Shiva counter. I had no idea. We do need some anti-air though. The Shuriken are going to be quite dangerous. We're at a weird level here where sometimes the Mammoth can connect with their laser beams and it's actually relatively effective. It's actually more than relatively effective. Oh my goodness. Huh. I had never noticed before, but apparently Mammoth are actually quite decent anti-air. I mean, decent enough to deal with Shuriken over here, which is impressive, certainly. Bombing run through the southern side, exposing the weak point right now. Going to be trying to strike the nerve here of the blue commanders, of the blue team. Fighters rolling in. Yep, targeting down those Shiva right there, or those Shuriken right there is lovely. Bombers take out the Aphis for the Cyan commander, and another bomber wave is headed directly towards the Tan commander's base. Oh, bombs away! Bombs away! Boom goes the base of the Seafoam Green Hero as the blue team begins to drop like flies. The southern side cracked wide open, and the red team immediately skyrockets to an advantage of, well, about 30%, give or take, depending on the massive reclaim of these Resbots on the front line, pulling back hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of metal per second. A beautiful connection right there for the blue team. Now, surprisingly, actually, we're still relatively close as far as the metal production goes. The blue team leading in energy production because of the blue hero right here, Claret, who is still holding on by the skin of their team's teeth. However, it is only a matter of time before these units are reclaimed and then all of this metal ends up being pushed forward right here. We just need about 30 more labs spamming out T1 units in order to break this southern line. And, oh, okay, well, just like that, Claret is now in charge of the entire map. The last remaining blue commander trying to win it for his team, apparently issuing an all-attack command here. We have the purple forces from a commander with no name, marching forward now and trying to connect in as big a way as possible. Yeah. Southern side still a mess of red units pushing forward, and there's not really enough defense in order to hold it. We're one more good bombing run away from closing out this game, but to Claret's credit, there is quite a lot of fighters in the air. The Behemoth is certainly quite scary. Those Juggernauts really don't want to engage it. Behemoth are basically Juggernaut killers. They're designed to kill Juggernauts and Titans and Praetorian, all the heavy T3s. Their D-gun wannabe weapon is very good at melting through the armor plating of units that can take multiple hits from it, and that really tends to be the biggest of the biggest. E-converters popping in a beautiful chain reaction, sending an explosive shockwave through the blue economy here. How funny is that? Claret, the last remaining survivor. The last vestige of hope here for the blue team, but at a desperate eco disadvantage of about 30% or so, with economic centers falling left, right, and center, with Shiva holding everything together, with build power crumbled and collapsed. Things are not looking good right now for our blue hero. The weight of 5 APMs directed against just one. I wonder what the APM here for Claret is. 93 actions per minute, micromanaging all of these different armies all at once is hilarious. Usually some of the best linger around 40, so over double the average, I would say. Pretty epic indeed. Shiva holding the line. Yeah. Demons, for whatever reason, engaging against the Shiva rather than the economy. Popping this build power would be much more use. Juggernauts have found their angle. Sweeping through the midsection of the map and trying desperately to pop these bases. The red team with just one commander left can't risk it. Sending it forward to kill these Juggernauts means we need a way to win this fight against these Juggernauts without resorting to a D-gun. Claret, of course, in a similar position here, though. Only one commander remaining. Means, of course, that commander is very valuable. These clumped up units are providing a environment in which the Shiva can look like tremendous heroes here. Yeah, trying to fight over the anti-air is wise here. Yep, the blue commander, nice. Taking these fights over the anti-air defenses means that the fighters can now engage on their own and shoot down all of these bombers right here. Nicely done. Oh, is it enough, though? Bombs are still away, and boom goes the Avis of the blue commander. The fighters unable to take down all those bombers in time, ravaging the economy here of Claret, who's still marching forward. My goodness, the tenacity on this commander. Marching forward against all odds, beyond all reason. Claret still holds out in this game. Bombers now used defensively to bomb down the Juggernauts. Not a bad idea. These bombers do actually quite a substantial amount of damage. As you can see, that Juggernaut going from about 70% HP to a meager 53. I'll watch again here. Yeah, pretty impressive what those heavy bombers can do. Doesn't matter, though. There's no way, right? There's no way he's managing to do this. Behemoth's continuing to push forward here as well. Nuclear bomb connects in the backline, taking out the fighter production. But we're in the backline bases. I mean, this is a race to find the last commander. Row hiding in the very back of this map right now. The Tan commander trying desperately to run away. The grunts have popped the E-converters. There's no production anymore. The red team with 999+% advantage right now. Claret forced to just cloak the commander and keep it still right now. It comes down to this. Who can manage to find that very last comp? The red base falls. Suddenly the energy disparity grows thinner and thinner. Claret with basically the energy production from a single AGO. And a fusion reactor and some solar panels, a bunch of random scrap, essentially. But here go the Juggernaut, and yeah, it's... Oh, this is so strange. So strange. Without any way to reliably kill the Juggernaut, no D-guns, I mean, it essentially does come down to who can find that last commander. Claret here much more exposed, I will say. That commander trying to walk away. Uh-oh, radar has been sent. Means the blue commander is targeted here. The tank commander has not been detected. The blue commander is under fire. The Shiva AoE whittling down the comm. Oh my goodness. The Juggernaut doesn't know. He can't see it. Oh no. The blue commander dies. Wow. The tank commander just barely managing to avoid the death gaze of the juggernauts. What a nail-biter between the last blue commander standing and the entire red team who banded together to steal the win in this game beyond all well, steal the win, maybe a bit harsh. That was a hard-fought victory on that southern side. Repeated bombing runs, eventually securing an advantage, and those Mammoths being brutal on the front line. A absolutely insurmountable obstacle of HP and laser fire. What a tremendous game. Thanks a ton for watching. I sure hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and I will see you in the very next match of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.